In his first UFC title fight, it is Jack Della Maddalena winning welterweight gold as he defeats Belal Muhammad via unanimous decision. Now Jack Della Maddalena on an 18-fight win streak. His last loss was in 2016. And for more, welcome in CBS Sports combat analyst Brian Campbell. Fun card at UFC 315 here from Montreal. And it's Jack Maddalena getting it done, taking the belt in his first title fight. What's your reaction to what he did against Belal Muhammad?
The future of the welterweight division is right now because Jack Della Maddalena went out there and took the championship from the champion, and a very respectable one in Belal Muhammad, who rallied in the second half of this fight. That fifth round, oh boy, it was wild. It was adventurous for both fighters. But at the end of the day, Jack Della Maddalena relied on his boxing, but it was the variety that he brought to his striking. It wasn't just letting his hands go. It was the angles, the head movement, and how about this? The takedown defense, particularly in the first 3 rounds of the fight, to set a tone when Jack Della went up 3-0 on my scorecards. This was from start to finish what a champion is made of. Della Maddalena went out there, landed the bigger shots, controlled the terms of the action for the most part, and anytime the champion had a moment to consider, Jack Della Maddalena had an answer, maybe not unlike Zoe the cat right here.
Reggie loves it when there's a new champion. He loves getting some screen time, some face time. I love seeing Reggie. I also love that 5th round. I mean, that was a slugfest, but BC, was that just too little too late for Muhammad?
It was, and you have to give Muhammad a lot of credit. People call him boring. People call him a decision fighter, not a finisher. He went after that in the final round. He made that a wild, scrappy affair ultimately, but really comes up just short. 2 judges giving 4 rounds to Jack Della Maddalena, and the 3rd judge giving 3. It was a close-ish fight with some very close rounds there. I think it was just clear in the end that Jack Della Maddalena did more. And what's key for this breakthrough performance coming in for Jack is that there were a lot of doubts around him. He was off for 14 months before this fight. He had also come off a fight in which he needed a knockout in the final round to rally to beat a veteran in Gilbert Burns. He had 2 split decision wins before that. So this was Jack Della Maddalena taking that time off, raising his game. And like I mentioned earlier, anytime the champion had a moment, Jack Della was there to top that moment. That's how you win close fights. That's how you become a star. That's not how you keep a cat out of a live television screen.
Reggie's trying to steal the moment. This is equal opportunity here. We can share the screen with Reggie. This is fine. We're friends of the felines. We're friends of the dogs. And certainly Jack Della Maddalena had that dog in him as he gets this done. Something we talked about coming in is the implications for now UFC 317. Lay it out for us, because now we've got some moving and shaking, something we missed out on, but maybe we'll get it down the road.
Yeah, look, the UFC president and CEO Dana White was kind of non-committal about the plans, but one thing he seemed to agree to was that the winner of this would dictate the future for Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev. Most importantly here, Makhachev. Yes, he's still your lightweight champion. He's the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Had Belal Muhammad won, though, the UFC was going to make Makhachev hang around there at 155 and face one of the biggest stars, right? Ilia Topuria, the former featherweight champion who has moved up in weight. But it seems now the victory for Jack Della Maddalena will open up the door for Makhachev to move up to welterweight and go directly into a title fight. That is not officially confirmed, but that seems to be the direction that UFC is heading. I'm sure Dana White will confirm that at the press conference that's happening right now. But if you want to know the inside baseball, if you will, on this, Makhachev, not a teammate of Belal Muhammad, but they have trained together. They were both mentored by Khabib Nurmagomedov for some time. There was a feeling there like they would keep the secrets in-house and not fight each other. Now that the belt is off of Belal and onto Australia's finest Jack Della Maddalena, he's got a very tough first title defense. Yes, it will be Makhachev moving up in weight if that's the direction UFC goes, but this will be an exciting slugfest between 2 of the more exciting strikers we have in this game.
What would have to happen for us to get Topuria versus Makhachev? now that this has been settled here on this night. But what has to happen in the future? Because that would be an epic fight, maybe one of the best in the sport.
Look, I've been arguing aggressively that the UFC should make that no matter what happened on this evening. Look, it's obvious. They're number 1 and 2 pound for pound in the world. They're 2 of the biggest stars in an era right now where there's legitimate criticism and argument that UFC not only doesn't have those breakthrough stars of old, the McGregors, GSPs, Anderson Silvas, and maybe they haven't done a great job developing them. Well, these are 2 absolutely breakout stars, a stud in Islam, an up-and-comer in Ilya, who represents 3 different countries and seems to be the toast of the town in Europe and UFC's expansion. It would make a lot of sense to do that fight now. It doesn't seem like they will, but to answer your question, you probably need Topuria to continue to win and really follow Conor McGregor's footsteps, which he's already done. Winning the featherweight title, now moving up in lightweight. Imagine if Topuria captures the lightweight title. Could he eventually move up to a 3rd division at welterweight? That's projecting a lot on him, of course, but Topuria projects a lot on himself regularly. In fact, he said, I'm going to be following Islam the rest of the way, no matter what division he goes to. This is Topuria, who recently changed his nickname to the legend, La Leyenda. I know he doesn't like the reaction from the fans. He's arguing that he might change it back, but these are 2 great fighters, but hey, here's what we're going to get. We're going to get Topuria on June 28th at UFC 317. Against 2, how about Charles Oliveira for the vacant lightweight title? And then you get Makhachev at welterweight. Hey, Hakeem, could be worse. Yeah. Let's take what we can get. Let's enjoy it here.
Yeah, put it in my veins. All right, we need to have those fights again. We're trying to inject that into our veins. Another title on the line in the co-main event. Valentina "Bullet" Shevchenko making her first title defense of her 2nd reign as flyweight champ, facing Manon the Beast Fior. Valentina, the underdog in this fight. Remind everyone, she's the champ. She went to work, BC. What impressed you the most?
Just her poise. I mean, this is what we know about her at 37. Such a decorated champion, one of the greatest female fighters in the history of the sport. But in that first round, she bloodied the nose of Fior, gave her a ton of trouble with the counter striking. But after Fior would rally back to win rounds 2 and 3 on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards, how did Shevchenko do this? She made championship adjustments. It's exactly what she's done throughout her career. She added a spinning back fist, which was a key part to her winning round 4, dropping Fior in the closing seconds with a pair of counter shots. And in that tight, close 5th round, Shevchenko appeared to just barely do enough in a tense fight that didn't have a lot of offense. It was more of a chess match. But boy, oh boy, 37 years old, her 2nd title reign. Yes, she was upset by Alexa Grasso 2 years ago, but she came back in successive fights in their trilogy to prove that she's still the best in the game. Everybody else is chasing her. As she always says, this mixed martial arts thing, right? Not a hobby, not a sport to her, a lifestyle. She lives it every day of the year. And you saw that in this fight against a very tough out and opponent in Fior, who had been 7-0 since coming to the UFC, all against, by the way, former title challengers and champions. She came up just short against a living legend.
Well, you never fade the bullet. Shevchenko now 4-0 as an underdog in her UFC career. Also on the card, UFC Hall of Famer Jose Aldo calling it a career. He previously announced his retirement in 2022, but returned after his loss on Saturday night. The 38-year-old said, quote, "I can't do this anymore." Leave his gloves in the center of the octagon. Ends a 14-year UFC career, BC. First UFC featherweight champ. Went on to defend the title 7 times during his first reign as champion. His loss to Conor McGregor at UFC 194. Snapped an 18-fight winning streak. I know how that ended, but still, what Aldo did was impressive. He's a Hall of Famer. Calls it a career. BC, what a career it was.
I mean, this is one of the greatest, one of the truly greatest, the king of Rio, the greatest featherweight in the history, but he's been moonlighting at bantamweight in recent years, and that's specifically what he said after this fight. A close and somewhat disputed decision loss to Ayman Zahabi, a rising welterweight who won his 6th straight fight with this after a wild final round. But it was Aldo in the post-fight interview saying his body just gave up. He had missed weight coming into this fight. The commission, the 2 fighters agreed to move this up to from a bantamweight to a featherweight bout. I don't think this is the last time you'll see Aldo fight in combat sports. He does seem to still have a decent amount left in that tank. But when it comes to taking on the best and maybe the sport's deepest division at bantamweight, it did seem with him taking off his gloves like he knew it was time. It was over. Remember, he's already in the UFC Hall of Fame. He already retired once, but came back because he felt like he still had more to give. An ageless, timeless warrior who, you want to talk about respect, bring up his name around any person of prominence in mixed martial arts, and they'll tell you, forget first ballot Hall of Famer. We're talking about Upper Room, one of the ATGs, the all-time greatest to ever do this. Wherever he goes next, if it is back into combat in some form, the fans will follow. And I think you saw that in that wild third round. He still got it. Maybe not for the full 15 minutes, right? It's tough when you get an older fighter in title fights, but he still got it in these pockets, and he's still in incredible top-shelf shape.
Jose Aldo, a living legend indeed, calling it a career. Brian Campbell wrapping up UFC 315 for us here on CBS Sports HQBC. Good to be with you. Appreciate you. And coming up, UFC 316 from Newark, New Jersey, with a pair of bantamweight titles on the line. Sugar Sean O'Malley set to make his return, had to have hip surgery following his UFC 306 title loss to Merab Dvalishvili last September. The two will run it back in June in a highly anticipated rematch for the belt. Co-main event, also a must-see. Juliana Pena putting her bantamweight championship on the line against Kayla Harrison, who's competing in her very first UFC title fight.